Hey everybody, this is a Brooklyn Bound podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I play instrumental percussion, and I am so pumped to talk with Aizuri Quartet, who's doing a piece on our Brooklyn Bound. It's coming up this week. It's coming up this Thursday. And on my screen, there's Ayane, viola, top left. Miho's playing violin in the top center. Emma's also playing violin in the top right. And Karen, you're with me in the bottom, playing the cello. That makes sense for you. That checked out, right?
Perfect.
Cello,
Keep it low.
bringing in the bass. Thank you guys for having this conversation. You just had a show last night. Woo! It's like it shouldn't be a weird thing to say, that right? Like a year and a half ago, that'd be like all the time when we talk to each other. Well, I'm so happy for you all. Um, I know a little bit about you. We got to work together, which I'm so happy about, and I'm happy to talk about that in a second. I got to see you all perform in Michigan when you guys did the improv thing, which was so cool. But I don't know your history so much. Can you guys talk a little bit about how you came to play in a string quartet? And was it your path always from birth? You were like, I'm playing in a string quartet, this is my goal in life? Or like, how did it all come together?
We actually formed, I think a lot of string quartets form in school often. I think that's like a great way to obviously meet colleagues who have the same passion as you do, but we actually met out of school. Miho, Karen, and myself are founding members, and at the time I was finishing up school. Karen and Miho were like big time freelancers in New York City. Um, big time, still big
Huge.
time. um, but we met at a summer festival, the Ravinia Steens Music Institute, which is like geared towards people who really love chamber music. Like that's basically all you do, like day in, day out. And that's like something that we were all interested in, chamber music in general. And yeah, that's kind of where it all took off. And I think Miho and Karen knew each other from school or from other gigs in the past, but this was the first time I had met them. And yeah, one of our mentors, Miriam Freed, the violin teacher in Boston, was really excited for us to like start something, and she was definitely encouraging of us to like try and get this up and running. And Emma joined a year and a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. Like the pandemic is really
Yeah.
making me like not understand timeline.
I totally understand.
I know I had the same realization yesterday. We were talking to someone else and they're like, "How long have you been in the group?" And I was like, "It's almost 2 years because we're in the summer again, which is nuts." But
Yeah.
yeah, I was lucky enough to meet everyone else in the group and play with them, and it was a great fit. And yeah, it's
Are
been
you always
wonderful.
going to be, you're always going to be the new person? We have that in our group too. There's like
Yeah.
we've had many. I'm actually the only founding person or whatever. And early on we changed a lot, but like there, Eric, I mean, he's played with us for, I don't know, 12, 14, like some long number of years, but he's always going to be the new person to it. Emma, I hope they're not too mean to you in that,
No,
like
it's
hazing.
great. We have an Emma-versary, so
Nice.
it's celebrated. I appreciate
That's really sweet. Oh my gosh. I hope Eric doesn't hear this. We'll have to have an Eric anniversary. That's really good. But so Ravinia is Chicago, like it's outside of Chicago, right? Is that but you all, I think I associate you all with New York. I think I know. So, are you guys all in New York now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you met, yeah, Miho.
Yeah, we've been I guess the quartet has been based in New York for 5 years now, I think.
Yay.
And before that, well, Emma grew up in the city, and Karen and I had been living in New York for a while before that.
Awesome. So it feels like home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spent 2 years in Philly for a quartet program at Curtis.
Awesome.
So at first we were commuting back and forth between Philly and New York, and then we all moved there for a couple years, and then the whole quartet moved back to New York. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I live in Princeton, as I think you all know, and so is based in Brooklyn, and I feel like everybody in Princeton is either attached to New York or Philly, and I didn't know as much about Philly, but I think it's pretty cool actually. Like, I'm starting to think it's actually an hour to get to Philly from where I live, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening there. when I'm always fighting 2.5 hours of traffic to get to get to Brooklyn, and I'm like, maybe I don't know, Philly. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Totally.
I lived in Philly because I moved for school there before the quartet. And so when the quartet formed, I was based in Philly. And the deal was when we got into Curtis as a quartet and got the residency program there, we would the two New Yorkers, Miho and Karen, would move to Philly for 2 years for the program. And then the two Philadelphia kids, which was me and
Nice.
the other girl, would then move to New York. And
So it's
so,
like a deal.
yeah, like as long as we were willing to move to New York at the end of that residency, like they were like, okay, we can do this.
I love that. That's the reason the quartet is together. You made a deal. The deal worked. New York is a great place to be. But so I want to ask you guys, but before we get to the piece you're playing of mine, I want to ask you just about the quartet, because I think when I've heard you play in person and virtually in other spaces, like I think I know a lot of quartets that have kind of specialize in the old kind of string quartet repertoire, and we obviously maybe obviously work with a lot of quartets, like Jack Quartet or somebody who's going to mostly do new stuff, Kronos Quartet or whatever, like folks who are like new. And I think you guys so wonderfully mingle between the two and bring, as far as I can tell, like bring the same energy or bring something from one to the other and try to bring the other back and forth. Has that always, well, I guess one, I don't know, Karen, I'll help the Zoom screen, though you can punt it around. Like, does that feel like a valid, am I taking it in a way that you would agree with? And has that always been something that the quartet's done?
No, that's like beautifully put, Jason. I think initially, we were more steeped in more traditional rep, I think. But we quickly started playing contemporary music, like in our first year. And it just started opening a lot for us in our work and in our playing. So we just felt really into doing both. We didn't want to do one exclusively. And then a couple years in, actually, we started, just getting more creative with our programming, imagining, thematic programming that could combine, Hildegard von Bingen, Gesualdo, Beethoven, and Conlon Nancarrow in a program
For example,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
like
amazing.
Exploring various forms of isolation and the creativity that would emerge from that kind of isolation for these different composers. So that also started to feel really exciting for us. Just working with more and more composers, it was just a huge love and passion for us. We've been doing it a lot and more. And yeah, but who knows, maybe one day we'll also do a Beethoven cycle. Yeah.
It could happen. It's not out of the question, but I want to see that program. Did you just play that program? Is that why you brought it up? Or is that sounds amazing?
We played a late Beethoven quartet last night in DC.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we paired it with some Hildegard von Bingen and Barbara Strozzi. So in that case, we had old music and then slightly less old music.
Yeah. I love it.
But the program that Karen was referencing before was one that we did, I guess the season before the pandemic, or right before the pandemic kind of halted things.
Yeah.
And exactly like how you said, we have such a passion for the canon works and for new music, and they really tie into each other, and our approach is informed by studying both, approaching the older traditional music with the fresh eyes that you approach a new score, and then with the contemporary music, kind of holding it with the same reverence that you would a late Beethoven string quartet and giving it that gravitas. And I think that really brings the music alive.
Yeah, and like one thing we discovered we really loved doing, the way we would perform a Beethoven quartet a few times. We wanted to perform new music a few times, like give new pieces longer lives as much as we could. So for our first album, we wanted to record pieces that were written for our quartet. And it was sort of like our personal collection of pieces we'd really lived with and want to really, give life for as long as possible. And yeah.
That's cool. That album, is that the New Am album you guys put out? Is that right? I'm trying to remember. I'm remembering as we talk more and more kind of different, I don't know, we are also friends with those folks and in a similar circle. And that's such a cool record. So those are all pieces that were written for you all. And they feel like represent that side of the quartet, the kind of commissioning side. I don't know, someone who either Ayane or Miho, I remember, so for me, I'm working my way backwards. I feel like, and hearing you all play pieces like Beethoven or Mozart are helping me move backwards. Like, as a drummer, like I got into it now and I'm like, kind of like, so I'm pretty, early 1900s, I've kind of gotten there, I'm still working on the 1800s. But the energy that you all brought to, I think it was a movement of a Mozart quartet. I think that you may have played in Michigan. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that or if it was a Beethoven quartet, music that I wasn't, not that I disliked, but like that I wasn't predisposed to be like, whoa. I just remember kind of sitting up and leaning in and being like, oh, wow, like the manner in which, things are sparkling in a different way, or I'm making connections in a way that feels fresh to me, and not in a way of like, oh, I know what's about to happen. And I don't understand why there's so much vibrato over everything, or like whatever my certain things are, the shit I bring to the table, I felt like you guys were helping me hear things with new ears, which I just got so excited about. I don't know, there's no question there, actually. There was a period at the end of that statement. I think there was no question.
Awesome of you. I think there was a Haydn quartet that you heard. Yeah, and like for us, like Haydn is so full of wit and humor, and like kind of he like throws curveballs and all that stuff. So yeah, I think like we do kind of see like, oh, what's coming next when we play Haydn.
You're totally right. And it was, I don't know if it was a lot of pits, but it felt sparkly and pokey and things were passing around in fun ways. So I'm feeling very much like I'm using all the wrong language, and all of a sudden it's like we were all on the same page with New Am, and now I'm like not. I'm like I just felt like, wow, I just threw out Mozart and Beethoven before I finally got to Haydn. But it was very memorable. It was very memorable.
The funny thing about that performance that you're talking about, where you were our judge.
I know I was. It was strange stitch.
Was the fact that it was like a 20-minute set or something for that last performance, and we had to make it up, or like we had to come up with it the night before, so we didn't have like anything like pre-planned, and it took us like 4 or 5 hours to curate 20 minutes of music. Because we really like thought about how one piece goes to the next, and like both the artistics, the musical, and the logistics of everything. And we it sounds like cheesy to say it, but like we do want people to come away with an experience after listening to the 20-minute set.
I do not think that sounds cheesy.
I mean, and so it like that means a lot that you said that, because like you heard it and you felt it, like what we had like been like working on so hard, in that moment.
Well, and also you did play some contemporary repertoire. You're gonna, I think, probably remember everything you played. I remember you played some contemporary repertoire as well. And to me, just seeing, I don't know, I felt like I learned something about you. I've heard you play more than just that time, but that time felt like it encapsulated this, oh, cool. Like, this is, I don't know, this is a 20-minute introduction in a cool way. And Ayane, I don't think that sounds cheesy. That I feel like, and especially to get maybe even cheesier, you all just played for an audience last night. We all just played our second show for an audience last night. And it is feeling like, to me, I was hopeful that was going to be a meaningful experience for us and for the audience, that like, it is meaningful to share space with people and share ideas and sound. Like that's a meaningful thing that we should all be missing. And for us, like the number of people who came up was like, this is the first show I've heard back and ... You know what I mean? And being like, so just thinking about the experience you have with an audience, I feel like it's just so key. And I feel like this year, I don't know, right? Like we've all thought about that for so long this year. And then thinking like, no, these are really important experiences we're having. Again, no questions. It sounds like I feel like we should just have coffee together sometime, because obviously we have stuff to talk about. But as the moderator of this conversation, I will get to a question. Because everybody who's checking the show out should check out a lot of what you all do. But I have selfishly been so psyched about the recording you all made. Speaking about, you know, not making music with other people in a room for so long, I think hearing you all play my piece, whenever that was in this year, that was like the first time I heard people play music. You know, it was like, I just remembered, I was just blown away. I felt like it was a concert for one, you know. So you all came to Princeton, you did a PSK concert, Princeton Sound Kitchen concert. So you played a ton of pieces by Princeton composers. Maybe, how was that experience? I imagine we've done that from the inside as well. You know, it's intense. I think you had a lot of music to play. Yeah. But a lot of awesome music from what I've been able to hear. Is this the first time you guys have worked at Princeton? Was that the first time?
That was our second time, actually. Yeah, we did it once the season before. And so it was, yeah, and I think this one was really special because we really, you know, I felt like we really dove deeper into the pieces. We met with you in January before the pandemic, and then kind of a long time passed, and then in the fall we kind of got together over Zoom again, and we, you know, talked about the piece, and we workshopped it again, and then we got together in Princeton to record it, you know, as a performance. So I feel like it was like, I don't know, that journey.
Yeah, I think they do a good job here of making sure there's time together, you know. And I remember bringing in my piece to be read, but I have to just admit that as a fanboy style, like I was a little bit nervous to bring the piece to you all to read for the first time. And so I was in the same room, I was in Baltimore, and I think you guys know the Bergamot Quartet. Like I knew them from a show down there, and I was like, I'm about to ask Aizuri to do some of these things. Can you just look at it to make sure I'm not an idiot? Like, are they gonna laugh at me, or are they gonna be like, this feels fun, or like, what, you know? And I know you guys didn't make me feel that way, but I feel like I was, I don't know, all of us at Princeton, I think, who had a chance to write for you all, we're just so pumped. So let me ask you a question, then. For me writing this piece, so the piece is called It Was a Rainy Afternoon. And I remember for me, the idea was, I'd written a cello octet a long time ago that I liked, but it was like one of the first pieces I ever wrote. And, you know, there were things I liked about it, but I wanted to go further on. And I had been thinking more and more about my experiences in Bali. I went to Bali, I studied Balinese music for a while, and I went to Bali, and I remember feeling like my strengths are not like moving notes around on a page, like pitches, you know, that's not where my in. I'm a percussionist, you know, not that I don't write music with pitch, but I want to do something that has very few pitches, but goes somewhere with all that you can do with those pitches. So my goal for you all in this was to really explore timbre in a way that I was hoping was going to be fun. What was that like for you all on the other end, for a percussionist to give you some things to do with timbre? Not, I mean, I'm married to a violist. It's not like I had no help along the way. But I guess I really appreciate the energy you all brought with it. And what is it like from the other side? If people are going to hear this piece on Thursday, what was your side of it?
Yeah, exploring those, like that kind of color palette that you created of different sounds throughout the piece. Like there's the introduction where we're really kind of exploring this transition from molto molto solpant, kind of this like, there's like this edgy sheen to the sound, and then it goes back to the ordinario, and which has much more warmth. And then we start exploring the pizzicati, the colegno, and then eventually 16th notes, kind of normal pitch notes come in again, and then it transitions to that, and then it kind of goes wild. And so that journey was really fun for us, and just very clear, you know, kind of that development. That was my impression of it, and I really appreciated that, because it helped me kind of understand where the energy was going, where we were going to end up, and having that idea from the opening was really, really cool to like to know like how to pace ourselves throughout the piece. And then the interlocking textures that you create with those like layered rhythms with the different sounds is really cool. And we had a lot of discussions in our rehearsals, and I think we probably talked about about this with you in the workshop too, about how we almost kind of felt like percussionists on our instruments,
Yay.
navigating all of the fast switches,
Mm.
which is interesting because we're not dealing with a whole lot of pitches. It's where do I go and where do I play, which is cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember when you guys played through it. I remember writing it. I was thinking about the big trajectory as well, so much that I wasn't following the score at all when you guys played through it. And I was just like, oh my God, I heard notes in a room. This is crazy. And you guys were so sweet. You were like, yeah, I think we need to go back to this part. Like you guys were looking at details in a wonderful way as a group should. But I was like so interested in the big picture that you guys played so wonderfully. Miha, I saw you unmute. We don't need to go around the room, but hearing your side of the story is really fun.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I wasn't muted before. Yeah, so I had this really funny image kind of going on as we were playing it, and when before we met today, like I watched the video again, and it is nice to kind of come out of, because when we play, like you're so in the texture, like in the thick of it, and then to be able to kind of come out of it and listen to it and to watch it, I love the scope of the piece. But so the image that kind of came to mind, and like I actually didn't tell you guys, the rest of you all, about it. It was like we were all in this like fantasy world together, and we were kind of going from one kind of world to another world as the texture changed. And then at the very end, when Ayani starts the 16th notes, it was like she kind of popped out of it and like was in like a really like happy place, and then like and then she was waiting for the next person to pop out of it and join her up there, and then one by one we would all pop out, and then like, you know, sorry, this was
Love it. I love it. Bring it. I am remembering this. Ayana, you were always the first to pop to the new thing. That was, I will say, that was being married to a violist, and sometimes the violist feeling like, wait a minute, where's the love? Like, I don't know if that was love, but that was hoping to be love for the viola. That was
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So last night the big piece we played was this Julie Wolfe piece that she wrote for us to play on string instruments, and I'm the viola. So someday there's going to be a way. I don't know if you've ever taken on Julie Wolfe's string quartets ever. Have you checked them out? If you ever take on a Julie Wolfe string quartet, give a call, because I feel like there's a dream where we share the stage with a string quartet and present her string quartet music, because we do one where the viola's down like this, doing all those kind of things. Well, I so appreciate the energy you bring to everything you do, but the energy you brought to my piece, it was just made my year. And there's a question that I ask of, two questions that I ask of everybody who we get a chance to talk with, and one is about this year. Intense year to be alive, intense year to be a musician. I think about it through the lens of I'm a father, and I feel like this year there were so many things where, like, with my kids, I had always gone through something, like, there was nothing that they were experiencing that I hadn't experienced on some level, meaning like, the pandemic was like, no, nobody's ever experienced this before. Like, this is new. We're all figuring this shit out, and then I think, the experiences just piled up. I think the Black Lives Matter conversation being conversations around equity being so important and so much more direct in our scene, I think, after George Floyd's murder, and then the election time being so this year of super intensity, and having to talk with each other on Zoom and not be in the same room with each other. And I know for me, like, I've had different moments where I've thought about for myself, like, what does it mean to do what I do at this time, or what does it mean to be a musician right now, or for So to think about, like, what is our role in the world? Like, why am I having a Zoom meeting right now for my organization, and I'm not somewhere else, and it's been really cyclical, so I think I've had 1,000 answers to it. But I imagine for you all, you must be also thinking about, like, as a quartet, and as an artist, what is your role right now? And I guess maybe this one could kind of go around the horn, just thinking about, like, has this year changed the way you've thought about your role as an artist and a musician, or has it kind of brought to light things that you already feel about being an artist, and it just maybe how has this year informed your thoughts, either individually and but also for Aizuri. I already rudely called on Miho once accidentally because I thought because apparently she hadn't. So why don't we go in alphabetical order? I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
John, that's you.
Yeah, that's you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
No, that's a really interesting question. I was kind of thinking about it after our concert yesterday's, like a question, something along those lines. Like, yeah, for me personally, I think coming out of all of this crazy pandemic things that we all went through, the thing that well, specifically for what we do, and specifically what I discovered last night as we were playing for an audience, and also especially afterwards talking to people, I think what is important to me as an artist is if I can just have a meaningful conversation with one audience member, or have if I don't get a chance to converse with them afterwards, like have a connection with the audience, and like that invisible energy, like synergy and symbiosis that you have in a concert with your audience. I think like if I can just have like one moment of connection where like we feel connected and they feel connected, I feel like that's like I've done my job, or like at least like that's what I want to do. And just on like a local level, every time we perform, just to be able to have a human connection with at least one person. Totally. I think that's kind of where I feel like my mind is at now.
I love it. I agree. No, I really do. I feel like it I don't know, I've said this before, even in these conversations. I think there's times where So has taken on some projects that have been more specifically political or socially conscious in some way. And I love that work. But as we started to just play concerts again, even before, just in the last couple of years, just the act of being together and having a real experience with somebody feels so more and more powerful. So I that totally resonates. I can't call on people. It feels too teacherly, but does anybody else have any thoughts about this? You're a quartet, you know how to pass it around.
I mean, I think what you were saying, Jason, about these questions being sort of cyclical, like that really resonates. We've all been, I think, thinking a lot, asking a lot of questions, returning to questions, thinking about our goals, our values, what's important, over and over, like again, and it's both cyclical and just super vivid. It's like extra heightened now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Adding.
Yeah.
that really resonates. Yeah.
Have you guys been together a lot through this year? Were you a group that got to kind of like pod together and say this is going to be our, which I think, so I imagine like for So, we were having a lot of these conversations on Zoom, which has been deliberate and important, but also, removed, and I think that's really wonderful that you all have been able to, as you said, Karen, vividly kind of, have these conversations, Don't worry, my last question is a softball, but Emma or Miho, I did see you on mute. I can verify that I did see you on mute this time.
Do you want me to add to?
If you would like to, I would love to hear what you're thinking about.
Like this was something that crossed my mind at the concert yesterday too, but I think this, if what we bring as artists can get someone to, I don't know, appreciate, like just be in awe of something that they're hearing or that they're feeling, or kind of wonder about something that like, oh, I want to check this out later, or oh, I want to listen to this composer more, or just like, I don't know, to get things kind of turning and to make someone more curious about things. I think that's that was a very special connection. Yeah.
Awesome. I love hearing from quartets who also think about the audience. Our scene doesn't always think about the audience, right? Like, I think most of us do, but sometimes it can get a little insular, right? Like, what's happening on stage is so important, and I love hearing you talk about the audience.
I just want to echo everything everyone's already said.
Yay.
But like a good chamber musician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would like to disagree with everything my chamber partner said. I actually think.
No, but it's so true. I mean, the whole pandemic and kind of starting to reemerge has just made us appreciate, the audience energy, the audience interaction, um, and even we talk a lot during our concerts. Typically, like we like to introduce pieces and just give a bit of background and kind of supplement program notes, and we find that audiences really respond to that. And getting to do that again, I think I kind of forgot that we used to do that, and so when we started doing it again, I was like, oh, like wow! As I was speaking, I was like, oh my god, like I feel crazy right now.
Yeah.
but it was amazing, and then and that's the moment where I at least feel like you really get to. I mean, you're staring at the audience and talking to them, but you really start to feel that connection.
Yeah. I feel like we played one other show before last night, and it was in Dallas, and in the quartet I'm the one that grabs the microphone and talks a lot, and I love doing it, and I love connecting with the audience, and it feels like one of my jobs. And I felt like I haven't talked to an audience in 14 months. Everybody's really excited to be here. We're so percussion, we're so excited. I just feel like I was just like and afterwards I was like, oh my god. Like they must have just been like, what is happening? But I was so excited to have that moment again, right? To have that, like, it's the beginning of helping the connection, Yeah, I love
exactly.
that. Yeah. Well, along those lines, and I have a funny, you guys may too, I have that countdown clock happening because anybody listening, I got locked out of my So Percussion Zoom. So I'm on my individual Zoom, and we have 3 minutes and 39 seconds to finish this conversation, which is perfect because there's one question, and I kind of wonder if there's a group answer that's interesting, and it doesn't have to be, it can be singular answers too. But the question has to do with kind of concerts in the before times, and the kind of like, you all are flying to shows, or you're getting in a van driving between shows, and for So, like, we have these kind of stories, of things that have happened to us on stage, or like concert experiences, that become baked into kind of the identity of the group in some ways, and either like these transcendental experiences of like, oh, that show was amazing, there were 3 people there and they were all, whatever, or like, oh, that time where you broke the glass bottle after you hit like whatever, like the I don't know, things explode on stage for us a lot. So some of those kind of stories that are kind of like integral to the group. So is there an Aizuri story or a couple that you could share from the before times, like a concert experience that is either fun or heavy or whatever, silly or life-changing? I can't tell if you're laughing because you all know the same one and you're not sure if you're going to share it. Maybe. Yeah. Perfect. This is the time to share that. No, really? This is the time.
It lives in a vault. Like,
really? Are you sure? Alex Sopp just shared an amazing story that she thought lived in a vault. So this is your moment.
Should I talk about Blue Hill? That's a fun one. Do you remember the Dancing Man?
Oh yeah. Let's hear about Dancing Man.
We were in Blue Hill, Maine, and it was such a wonderful concert. And I remember at the end of the show, we looked up to the balcony, and this older gentleman, instead of clapping, he was on his feet and like just like waving his arms around.
Yay.
He like kind of like interpretive dancing to show his enthusiasm. And it was hilarious. I had never seen anything like it. And I talked to him afterwards and asked about it, and he was like, well, I don't understand. We just listen to so much music. Why do we need to make more noise? We should like move our bodies.
Oh, I love that. Was he alive in the 60s? Was this like was he maybe?
Definitely.
Yeah. We've played a lot of minimalism, and we call those wonderful audience members kelpers. Sometimes they're kelping. It's really wonderful. I love that you had a kelper at the show. Do you remember what you played before this wonderful gentleman, Kelped?
Sibelius, Intimate
Perfect.
Voices, String Quartet.
You win. That's amazing. It feels like minimalism is built for Kelping, and Sibelius, I feel like you really brought it out of him. That's what I feel like. I feel like that's a win. I want to talk to you all for much longer, but out of respect for all of our evenings, having traveled back from shows this morning, and out of respect for my lowly Zoom account that's going to cut us off in a moment, I want to just thank you for talking with me, and thanks for being a part of Brooklyn Bound this week. Yeah, and thanks for just being awesome.
Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely.
And
Let's see each other in real life sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.